You're the reason why justice has expanded, and now we're focused on making sure that everybody is treated fairly under the law. And why people have the freedom to marry whoever they love from sea to shining sea. I tell you, we're moving into the next presidential cycle and the next political season. And you will hear a lot of people telling you everything that's wrong with America. And that's okay. That's a proper part of our democracy. One of the things about America is we're never satisfied. We keep pushing forward. But it's important that we remember what's right, and what's good, and what's hopeful about this country. It's worth remembering that for all the tragedy, for the all images of Katrina in those first few days, in those first few months, look at what's happened here. It's worth remembering the thousands of Americans like Michelle and Victor and MRS. Willie Mae and the folks who rallied around her, Americans all across this. Country who, when they saw neighbors and friends or strangers in need, came to help. And people who today still spend their time every day helping others, rolling up their sleeves. Doing the hard work of changing this country without the need for credit or the need for glory. Don't get their name in the papers, don't see their day in the sun, do it because it's right. These Americans live the basic values that define this country, the value we've been reminded. Of in these past 10 years as we've come back from a crisis that changed the city. And an economic crisis that spread throughout the nation, the basic notion that I am my brother's keeper. and I am my sister's keeper, and that we look out for each other and that we're all in this together. That's the story of New Orleans, but that's also the story of America, a city that for almost 300 years, has been the gateway to America's soul. Where the jazz makes you cry, the funerals make you dance, the bayou makes you believe all kinds of things. A place that has always brought together people of all races and religions and languages. And everybody adds their culture and their flavor into the city's gumbo. You remind our nation that for all of our differences, in the end, what matters is we're all in the same boat. We all share a similar destiny. If we stay focused on that common purpose, if we remember our responsibility to ourselves but also our responsibilities and obligations to one another, we will not just rebuild the city, we will rebuild this country. We'll make sure not just these young men, but every child in America has a structure and support and love and the kind of nurturing that they need to succeed. We'll leave behind a city and a nation that's worthy of generations to come. That's what you've gotten started. Now we got to finish the job. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America. Barack Obama. Kennedy Center Honorees Reception Speech. Delivered December 6, 2009. President Obama, thank you. On behalf of Michelle and myself, welcome to the White House. Little child, thank you. President Obama, thank you. This a season of joy, tradition, and celebration. Little child, yeah. President Obama, yes. And today, it is our great joy to continue a White House holiday tradition, a celebration of performers who have transformed the arts in America, our extraordinary Kennedy Center honorees. We are joined by Speaker Nancy Pelosi, members of Congress, and members of the Kennedy family. I see sprinkled through the crowd some pretty fancy company, as well. You've got the Queen of Soul. You've got Martin Scorsese, he knows a little bit about filmmaking. And my spectacular First Lady is here, as well. I especially want to thank the man who created these honors more than 3 decades. Ago, and who has produced them ever since, and whom I was proud to name as co-chair. Of the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities, George Stevens, Jr. George. And I want to also thank Stephen Schwartman and the Kennedy Center trustees. As well as President Michael Kaiser and all those who sustain President Kennedy's vision of a great stage celebrating the best coming from this country and abroad. These performers are indeed the best. They are also living reminders of a simple truth, and I'm going to steal a line from Michelle here: the arts are not somehow apart from our national life. The arts are at the heart of our national life. In times of war and sacrifice, the arts and these artists remind us to sing and to laugh and to live. In times of plenty, they challenge our conscience and implore us to remember the least among us. In moments of division or doubt, they compel us to see the common values that we share. The ideals to which we aspire, even if we sometimes fall short. In days of hardship, they renew our hope that brighter days are still ahead. So let's never forget that art strengthens America. And that's why we're making sure that America strengthens its arts. It's why we're re-energizing the National Endowment of the Arts. That's why we're helping to sustain jobs in arts communities across the country. It's why we're supporting arts education in our schools. And why Michelle and I have hosted students here at the White House to experience the best of American poetry and music. And it's why we're honored to celebrate these 5 remarkable performers. Who for decades have helped to sustain and strengthen the American spirit. You can't understand America without understanding jazz. And you can't understand jazz without understanding Dave Brubeck. His mother was a classical pianist with high hopes for her son. And by the time he was 4, he was playing himself. But by the time he was a teenager, he was tearing up local honky-tonks. Even his mother had to admit, there is some hope for David after all. And perhaps it was World War II, his service in Patton's army, that changed his sound, forcing him as he said, to work the war out of his system by playing some pretty vicious piano. Whatever it was. His sound, the distinctive harmonies and improvisations of the Dave Brubeck Quartet would change jazz forever. Prompting Time magazine to put him on the cover as the leader of a new jazz age. Having brought jazz into the mainstream, he then transformed it. With innovative new rhythms on albums like Time Out, the first jazz album to ever sell more. Than a million copies, and still one of the best-selling jazz albums of all time. Dave Brubeck has never stopped reaching new audiences, performing for presidents from Johnson to Reagan. Composing orchestral tributes to Martin Luther King and Pope John Paul II. And even in his 80s, dazzling jazz festivals across America. And I know personally how powerful his performances can be. I mentioned this to Dave backstage. In the few weeks that I spent with my father as a child. He came to visit me for about a month when I was young. One of the things he did was to take me to my first jazz concert. In Honolulu, Hawaii, in 1971, and it was a Dave Brubeck concert. And I've been a jazz fan ever since. The world that he opened up for a 10-year-old boy was spectacular. And, Dave, for the joy that you've given millions of jazz lovers like me. For your 6 decades of revolutionary rhythms, you are rightly honored, especially today, on your 89th birthday. He was born Melvin Kaminsky. Mel Brooks, he never understood 4/4 time 1. President Obama, he's still messing it up, Mel. Mel, I'm trying to say something nice about you, now. Please don't upstage me. As you can tell, he was born to entertain. Or, as Mel Brooks explains it, look at Jewish history. Unrelieved lamenting would be intolerable. So every 10 Jews, God designed one to be crazy and amuse the others. According to Mel, by the time I was 5 I knew I was that one. And by the time he was 9. This boy from Brooklyn had seen his first musical and dreamed of becoming the king of Broadway. But World War II meant service in the army, or, as he put it, the European theater of operations, with lots of operations and very little theater. Returning home, he found success cranking out quips for Sid Caesar, or as Mel described his reaction to success, panic. Hysteria, insomnia, and years of psychoanalysis. That's right, we're reading back all your golden moments here, Mel. Unfortunately, many of the punchlines that have defined Mel Brooks' success cannot be repeated here. I was telling him that I went to see Blazing Saddles when I was 10. And he pointed out that I think according to the ratings, I should not have been allowed in the theater. That's true. I think I had a fake ID. But the statute of limitations has passed. Suffice it to say, in his satires and parodies, no cow is sacred, no genre is safe. He mocked the musical and Hitler in The Producers. The Western in Blazing Saddles, and the horror film in Young Frankenstein.